Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about address matching with Gigasheet and Placekey. So if you've ever worked with addresses, you know it can be really tricky because of the various formats, abbreviations, and possibly missing items in addresses, how tricky it can be to do matching or correlation on these. And today we're going to take a look at how you can use a service from Placekey to help with this. So first of all, I want to take a look at two data sets. I've got a set of clean addresses from my CRM of customers, and then I've got this bigger list of about 180,000 addresses of potential customers that I might want to target. So in this made up scenario, these addresses are real. They come from the Open Addresses project, and I just picked sort of a random subset of addresses in the West. And I'll actually show you that here. You can see I downloaded all these files from the Open Addresses project. And basically what I did is I went through and combined them all and made this huge file and then started to clean it up. And to do that, use this and enter your sheet name. As long as the columns are matching, it'll combine all those without issues. So I made a huge file, and then I went through, and full disclosure, I did do some cleanup on this. The Open Addresses project is really cool, but it also contains lots of missing or sort of somewhat dirty data, as you might expect. So basically, I went through and removed things where if there's no postcode, no zip code, no region, and no city, if there are too many items missing, I just went ahead and removed that. In the place key documentation, you can see they have a minimum number of fields that they require. So let's jump back to our address matching project. You can see here, I've got a list of our customers. Hypothetically, these are made up, so it's all synthetic data on this side. The addresses are real though. And you can see these are the quote unquote clean customers that I've dumped from my CRM. I've got a company name. I've got the address here with the house number, street name, and in some cases a unit number and city, and then the region. I don't have zip code, and I also am not using abbreviations for the state name. It's spelled out in its entirety. Now let's look at the list of addresses that I want to match across. So in this hypothetical scenario, maybe I want to take my customers out of this list and ensure that I'm not maybe sending them a direct mailer or something else. This is a list of addresses that I want to try to correlate or remove my customers from. And you can see here that we've got a street number broken out, street name, possibly a unit number, city, district, region, which is usually the state. In this case, you can see it's often an abbreviation, the two-letter state abbreviation, and then we do have postcode. So a lot of the same information, but as you can see, sometimes it's clean, sometimes elements are missing. If we just kind of page through here, we can pull up some other data. Like sometimes they might spell out street or spell out court. In other cases, they use the abbreviation. So this is good because it emulates what you're likely to get if you just had, say, a form on your website or collected data from users in other ways. It's not perfect. Sometimes they include information. Sometimes they say APT. Sometimes they type apartment. You get the idea. So it can be really tricky to do matching on this. Even if you want to do fuzzy matching, it can be really hard. In a spreadsheet, it's not trivial to do this. So that's why we're going to use Placekey. Basically, you send a request to Placekey with whatever parts of data you have about the location, and they will return a unique identifier called a place key. And you can use that to do matching on. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll run the place key enrichment in Gigasheet and get back place keys for each of my 35 customers here. And then what I'll do is run the place key enrichment on this data from the Open Addresses project, the 180,000 rows of data, and we'll get place keys for each of these locations. And then what we'll do is a cross correlation using our VLOOKUP in Gigasheet. to find if there are any matches. So are any of our customers possibly in this list? So let's get started. So first I'll go to enrichments. In this case, I'm going to use a custom enrichment. I'll go to Placekey to the documentation, and I want to use the Placekey API to look up an address. So scrolling through here, we can see get Placekey for an address. Perfect. And I'm going to copy this curl request here, and I'll show you how I format it in Gigasheet. So I'll paste in the curl request. Now, at this step, I need to put in my API key. It's free to register on the Placekey website, so you'll just want to replace this part with your API key. Now that I've added my API key, I can now start to add column references to my request. So in their example, they have this street address and unit all in one, which is perfect because that's what matches my address line 1 over here. So I will add that column reference in. Next, I need to add the city, state, or region in this case, which I also call region. Perfect. I don't have a zip code, so I'll remove postal code or just leave it blank. And all of these are in the US, so that's perfect. I'll hit next, and I can see a test request and response. And here are the place keys for the first 3 items. I'm going to unselect query ID because I don't really need that for this project. I'll hit apply. It says it's going to run 35 requests, and I'll say okay. So I get this toast message that appears that says this could take up to 60 minutes and that it's going to email me when it's done. This is only 35 requests, so it shouldn't take that long. But I will mention that it can take a long time. It can take even longer than 60 minutes. It really just depends on all kinds of factors like network traffic, load, and also the rate limiting of the service that you're using. In this case, we're just doing 1 request per line. And you can see here, it didn't take very long to do 35. It just picked the last column name and appended response code in Placekey. But here we see we got 200 for all of them. Awesome. I don't really need the response code anymore, so I'll delete that column. And then here, I've got my Placekey, that unique identifier for each of these addresses. I'm just going to rename that. Now, I'm going to do the exact same process on this much larger file of US addresses. You'll notice that things are organized a little differently, whereas in my clean CRM list, I have this address line 1, which combines the house number, street name, and unit. But here in this data set, it's all broken out. Now, if we go back and look at the docs, for Placekey, we see it likes to have everything on one line as well and set that up. So I'll use a data cleanup function here in Gigasheet. By the way, I should mention I also ran some other cleanup functions prior to doing this, like remove duplicates, and also filtered to things where lots of fields were missing or erroneous. But here what we'll do is combine columns. So I want to combine the street number with the street name and unit all into one field. I'll separate them by a space, and I'll rename this to be address. Hit apply. And now I've got this new column here the way I want. And now I'm ready to run my enrichment. So I'll follow the same process that I did before, create a custom enrichment, paste in my API key, and go through and replace these fields. In this case, it's going to be running many more enrichments than in the previous request. So this actually probably will take a couple hours to run. I do get an email when it's complete. So we'll hit run, and I can see that the enrichment is queued and it'll start running. Okay, the enrichment on this file has completed. This is the response code from the API. It looks good. Filter to exclude this, see if we got any others. We didn't. Everything has a 200, which is awesome. That's what we want. I'm going to go ahead and remove this column since I don't need the response code for this work. And now I have the place key. I'm going to rename this column to just place key instead of city place key. And let's see if we have anything empty here. I'm just going to do a sort, reverse sort to see if there are any empty cells at the top. There aren't. Looks good. Now we have a primary key in both our CRM data and in this big list of messy addresses. Now it's time to do the matching. So what I'll do is, as you recall, take a quick look at this clean customer addresses. And what I want to do is see if any of these place keys appear in this list. To do that, I'll use this cross-file VLOOKUP function in Gigasheet. Select the primary key that I want to match on. In this case, it's the place key ID. Next, I'll browse for a file of the CRM data. And in that file, I want to match on the place key. We do some fuzzy matching in Gigasheet. It's really very basic. It allows for ignoring case, punctuation, white space. But in this case, since it came from the place key service, these should be exact matches. We could also bring across values if we wanted to from the other file. But in this case, I just want true false. Are they a customer or not? So I'll hit apply. And now it'll be doing that cross-file lookup and add a new column. So I can see actually here we have one match. Let's filter and see if there are others. So we got a handful of matches actually. And what I'm going to do is hit data cleanup and delete matching rows to remove all of my customers from this direct mailing campaign. This is just a hypothetical scenario, but hopefully you get the idea of how you can use Placekey to do address matching and location resolution with Gigasheet. Thanks for watching.